In this video I'm going to be illustrating the use of the Smart NB and Smart NX commands that are available for download on www.scorebox.com. As you know, the NX and NB commands within Score load up the next sequential file in alphabetical order. Let's say if we're working on file 100 and you would invoke the NX command, Score would attempt to load file 101, and if that file doesn't exist, then the NX command will not yield any results, despite the fact that you might have a file 102 in your directory, which if you did a directory read would of course be the next file in sequence. That's a serious shortcoming. The Smart NB and Smart NX commands overcome the shortcoming and enable you to cycle through files in sequential order, no matter what their file nomenclature is. I'm going to show you quickly how that is done. First of all, I'm going to open a file, and well, let me just copy this file here. I'm going to copy this file, and then I'm going to make a completely new directory that I don't have yet. Let's say maybe YYYY. That's my new directory. I open that up and I paste this file in there. And actually, let me just call this file instead 01.muse, like that. And then I'll select it from here. Okay. Now, if you press the F7 key, you can see there's my newly created directory, score for YYYY, and this is my file called 01.muse. Now, I'm going to save this file a number of times by randomly tapping out different letter and number combinations on the keyboard in order to create different files, but that are not going to be in direct sequential order. Okay, so I'll do this right now. Like that, like that, like that, like that, and then like that, and like that maybe. You can see this is my directory read, and right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 files, and they do appear on the directory read, of course, in an alphabetical order. But the NX command in Score is not capable of calling those files up in order. So let me open up file 01 again. There it is. And if I type NX like this and press enter, it says file not found. It was actually looking for file 10.muse. The next file in sequence will be file 10,001a.muse. Like that. Now, and then if you want to call up the next file, you can do a directory read and you could say, okay, the next file is 1001.muse, g1001.muse. You can do it that way, but it's cumbersome. Plus, if you have a lot of files in excuse me, if you have a lot of files in the directory read, you know what happens, and then they just roll off the top and you can't really see what the first set of files was, because it just flies off the screen. You won't be able to pause the display of the files in the directory. Now within ScorBox, of course, you can always use the open command, and then just navigate around with a standard file manager, and then you can look at the files from as you wish. And of course, you can always just select files directly from the list, like here. That's possible also. But still, it will be more convenient to be able to go from file to file simply by typing the NX command or the NB command. Anyway, so that's not possible from within Score. So I've created the Smart NB and Smart NX macros to enable this functionality. I've placed it into my file menu, which is located right here. And in the file menu, you can see I have two commands. One is called Smart NB and the other one is called Smart NX. And I've given Smart NB a hotkey of Alt Shift left arrow. That was easy for me to remember. And the Smart NX command is Alt Shift right arrow. So right now I want to go forward and I want to find the because 01 is the first file in my directory, and I want to go forward and call up the next file in sequence. So So I'll do this now by invoking it from the file menu, and after that I will just simply type the keyboard shortcut, so you won't be seeing this menu come up anymore. So Smart NX is right here, Alt Shift right arrow, and that calls up the next file, 10,001a.muse. And I'll type Alt Shift right arrow, and it does it again. This is 1001.muse. Now again, look at the directory read, you see those are the files in sequence. The next file that would be called up by the Smart NX command would be 3 number 003ag.muse. So I'm going to type Alt Shift right arrow, and there's the file. And so forth, going through all the files in alphabetical order in your directory, like that. And then when it comes to the last file in the directory, in other words, where there isn't really anything coming following it, you get a warning window that says the currently open file, excuse me, in this case witru.muse is the last star.muse file in the directory. You cannot navigate forward further. Okay. Now going backwards is the same thing, the Smart NB feature, and it goes through the files in alphabetical order regardless of their nomenclature. Like that, and then it says the currently open file o1.muse is the first .muse file in the directory. You cannot navigate back further. Now it will cycle through these files by extension. So if you have, for instance, a file o1.muse and also have an o1.pag, a page file, that's not it's not going to find the page files. It is going to constrain itself to files that have the same extension. In this case, the .muse extension. Let me just, for instance, show you as an example. I'm going to save this as sao1.pag, like that, and now give it some pag random numbers, like that, like that, like that, like that. Okay. Again, employ the Smart NB or Smart NX feature. I'm going to do a directory read only on .page files. I see that the first one is o1.pag, so I'm going to call that one up like that. NX, as you know, wouldn't work, but Smart NX does. 11a.pag, 20,202.pag. The next file would be, sorry, we didn't do a directory on pag files only, would be tut2.pag. There's that one, then one more, and then I will get another warning window that says the currently open file blah blah blah.pag is the last star.pag file in the directory. You cannot navigate forward further. So it always tries to cycle through these files by extension, and it recognizes what the extension is. Now this obviously is not as fast as typing the NX and NB feature command directly in SCOR. So if you have files in direct sequential order, then obviously it will be a lot faster for you to just use the standard NX and NB commands. But if you don't have that, then this is certainly beats having to look up all the files individually by doing a directory read. And then if it flies off the page, then you have to look in the file manager and or make a printout on a sheet of paper and type them all up individually. That's a nuisance, of course, and this certainly beats that. Sometimes you will have files in a working directory that are not in direct sequential order. Let's say, for instance, you're working on a book project and you have all the musical illustrations for chapter 1, and there's some that are called example 1, and then the other one is called figure 10, simply because of how the author names them, these particular examples. And you want to be able to call them that so that they can easily associate the file names with the examples that you're getting on paper, so you know what it is you're actually looking at. So you can in fact have situations where files are not sequentially named, in a case like the one I just described, and then having the Smart NX and NB feature I think is a very helpful way of being able to cycle through the files in sequence. Now let me go to a different directory where I know I have sequential files. Such as up here. These files are all, as you can see, in sequential order, so I'm going to call up right now file o10.muse, like that. Now, you can just type the NX command, as you know. Let's go through these files in sequence. If you don't want to do that, you can assign it to a mini macro, which is 'NX, like that, and then just simply cycle through it that way. The trouble with the mini macros that I never really like about that is if I already have a mini macro, then assigning this, first of all, you have to assign it, but also when you do assign it, you might have had another one in there, then of course it's inevitably gone. And typing NX enter and NB enter like that is still a bit annoying. It's relatively quick, but it could be made easier. For that, I've made an extraordinarily simple macro express macro that you can make yourself. And it's called NB NX. This one I use all the time. If NB NX actually works, when I know it works, I invoke these keyboard shortcuts. In that particular case, NB is always accomplished by typing Shift left arrow, and NX is always accomplished by typing Shift right arrow. So if I want to go forward now, I simply press the Shift key and type the arrow key, and the NX command is then automatically piped into the Score program, like that. See? It's very convenient for me because I can have basically my the right finger on the Shift key, and then the arrow key, the middle finger on, and the ring finger on the left on the right arrow keys, and it's very, very easy for me to cycle through files in this way. So when I can use NBNX, I do use it, but I substitute it with my Macro Express macros that I've made for that. And for everything else, there's a smart NBNX macros that are now available for download on www.scorebox.com. Thank you very much for watching.